Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Patch Notes, a show where we go over the biggest gaming news from the previous week and cover them in a nice, bit-sized package. My name is Drew, and as always, it's great to see you guys. This episode, we are covering the news from the week of September 1st, 2017. There's not a lot of big news this week, but there is a lot of news surrounding Bethesda, the guys behind Skyrim and Fallout, and it's not all good news, so let's go ahead and get into it. Earlier this week, as Gamescom was coming to a close, journalists started chiming in about their experiences with the highly anticipated Skyrim VR. Bethesda hyped up their VR re-release for Skyrim and Fallout 4 this year at E3, and for the most part it looked like it was going well and it was looking good, but the experience at Gamescom is telling a different story. Players like George from Super Bunny Hop are describing the VR port as a hot mess that doesn't even feel like Skyrim at all. You're forced to move around Skyrim via a teleportation system, and you can only attack with a weapon in one hand and an unlimited fire flamethrower spell in the other. Reports have stated that getting around in Skyrim VR just feels unnatural and has been done way better in other VR offerings. It also reportedly runs at the lowest settings for the game, so everything looks kind of muddy and unimpressive. All in all, this doesn't look like it's going to be a very good VR experience, and barely an acceptable one at that. Considering Bethesda has been working on their VR tech for years now, where exactly has all that work gone? Who knows, maybe they're playing an earlier build of the tech, or they're playing the PSVR version or something like that, but there are clear design flaws like the teleportation that really can't change that it's a bad experience. The complaints are coming from the fact that it doesn't feel natural to play, not that it doesn't look good. When you have a fundamental flaw in your design like that, it's much more difficult to change that, and I don't think it will be changed. In other Bethesda news, is the RPG powerhouse working on an open-world Game of Thrones game? No. Unfortunately. Over the weekend, gamers noticed that Target accidentally put up a product page for a game called Bethesda Game of Thrones. This sent gamers into a frenzy of excitement, thinking that Bethesda was working on an adaptation of the vast book series and very popular television show. I have to say, I was incredibly excited myself when I first heard this rumor, because it would kind of explain a lot of things, like what Bethesda has been doing the past couple years since Skyrim and Fallout 4, other than just making re-releases and stuff. And when this rumor came out, the timing was perfect, because it was right around the Season 7 finale, so the popularity of the show was at an all-time high. But this ended up just being that, a rumor. Target later came out and said that it was a mistake and that the product doesn't even exist. Dave Tierib Forbes, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, described how easy it is to manipulate Target's URL system for their product pages. Simply by moving things around like numbers or certain strings, you can make a page say whatever you want. So when it comes down to it, this was very likely just a person figuring this out and just kind of making a page for themselves, taking a screenshot and posting it on 4chan or Reddit, or maybe even NeoGAF. And to finally round off Bethesda's no good, very bad PR nightmare week that they've had, their new mini DLC system called Creation Club has now officially launched for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC versions of Skyrim and Fallout 4. Bethesda made Creation Club to supposedly help mod creators by giving them official support and to allow them to actually give their mods away for a certain fee. These officially supported mods are treated just as DLCs, so they don't turn off achievements and trophies in the games. And a direct cut of the profits goes straight to the mod creators. This may sound a little vague, and that's because I'm trying to be vague without having to just call it for what it is. It's paid mods. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because Bethesda tried the same thing last year with paid mods in Steam Workshop, where they were actually trying to charge money for certain mods. The way it worked is Bethesda and Steam would get a cut, and also the mod creators would get a cut, but then all of a sudden you started seeing mods that were previously free to everybody started having a fee attached to them. PC players generally don't like this because they've had free PC mods for decades now. And that's where the problem lies. People feel like Bethesda are nickel and diming them for something that they could get elsewhere for free. It doesn't help that most of what's available on the Creation Club right now are just reskins of items that are already in the game. There are no new quests or campaigns or really anything to show off the beefiness of this program. And that's why the low effort content hasn't really done enough to kind of convince the player base that it's a quality program. To make things worse, multiple users have reported that you can find a bunch of the mods available through the Creation Club, which cost money, may I remind you, can be found on other sites like Nexus Mods for free. These free versions of the mods are also reportedly higher quality and run better in the games, which kind of defeats the purpose of the Creation Club in general. I know a lot of people are reporting on this right now, and I honestly can't really add much to the conversation, but all I'll say is that you should not support this program in any way. Bethesda is taking advantage of people by giving away free credits that can only get you so much, but if you pay just a little bit more, you'll get this bundle and you can actually get a bunch of other skins. But you'll have a little bit left over, so if you pay a little bit more, you'll be able to just round off to make it a nice zero. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, if that sounds like any game that has some sort of premium currency, that's how it's done. They make sure that when you buy something with that premium currency, you still have a little bit of that premium currency left over, so that you're encouraged or even feel guilty that you spent money on that, so you have to spend it somewhere, so you spend a little bit more money so you can buy something else. Remember Microsoft points from the old days of Xbox Live? Yeah, it was a problem there. It's still a problem in games like Rainbow Six Siege, Destiny, and even PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds to an extent. So to avoid this problem altogether, I suggest just sticking to the free mods that are available on all platforms still. They're still there. Just use the free mods and you really don't even have to waste your time with this paid mod bullshit. Whew, that was a lot of Bethesda news. And they're really having a bad week, aren't they? Anyway, there's just a few more things I want to talk about here before I finish the episode. First off, the Destiny 2 open beta has officially begun and it's reportedly going very well. Many people, myself included, believe that the PC port of the game would be barely playable at best. But Vicarious Visions, the developer working on the PC port, has managed to blow everybody's expectations out of the water with how well optimized it is. I personally get great performance, like 60 FPS at high settings on my 4-year-old GTX 660 Ti machine, which is pretty impressive. PC port of the game actually looks and plays so good that a lot of people that played on console are now committing to making the switch. Even though I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the PC port of the beta, I can't say the same for myself. I normally play the game on Xbox One with my friends, and since Bungie just announced this week that they're going to have something special at the beginning of the game for returning players, I really can't commit to switching platforms. That, plus the obvious things like I want the achievements on my Xbox profile and I want to play with my friends who can't get PCs, and it just makes it so that the transition's much more difficult for me. In other news, Ted Timmons, a developer at Rare working on Sea of Thieves, spoke with PC Gamer about some pretty inclusive features that we're going to launch with the game. Timmons said that they want to support as many gamers' PCs as possible, even going so far as to offer non-HD resolutions like 540p for people who have really old machines. This makes a lot of sense, if I'm honest, because it looks like Rare and Microsoft are taking a huge page from Minecraft's book and trying to make it so that anybody can play this game on really any system. Well, that's all fine and good. What had a few people raising their eyebrows over this article was the fact that Ted Timmons also announced that they're going to be having a 15 frames per second lock available in the game. Apparently this is a feature that was requested by some of their players on their forums. Many people saw this as a joke, thinking who in their right mind would want to play a game at 15 frames per second? But hold on, I do think that this option actually does have some merit with the nostalgia crowd. A lot of the people are going to remember Rare from their N64 days, which a lot of those games ran at sometimes 15 frames per second. So I guess in theory that's gonna like help with nostalgia and make the game feel a little bit older and a bit more nostalgic or something like that? I don't know. Practically though, the 15 frames per second lock is gonna help people with really old PCs get at least a consistent experience, because having a steady frame rate is much better than having something that fluctuates between 10 frames per second and 30 frames per second. If you just stick at 15 frames per second, it looks better to your eyes and hurts your eyes a lot less than something that fluctuates. With that said though, I don't think that we should be focusing on the odd features that this game is going to launch with, and just be happy that it's going to launch with a lot of features like this in general. It shows that they're spending a lot of time optimizing this game. I've actually been able to play a little bit of Sea of Thieves this past week thanks to Gamescom, and while I can't say much about my experience, I really can't because there's an NDA, what I can say is I can't wait for other people to experience it. All I can really tell you guys is I personally can't wait to play it again with my friends. And finally, to round off this week, Microsoft and Taco Bell have officially announced a promotion where you can win an Xbox One X by buying one of their big quesarito boxes or something like that. This isn't a paid promotion or anything like that, and I honestly don't even care if you like Taco Bell, but I just want to let you guys know that you can in fact win one of these. I actually won a PlayStation VR just a couple months ago. It's right over here. This is the PlayStation VR that I won from Taco Bell. But yeah, I've won something before. I'm definitely going to try to win this and try to save myself $500, but I recommend you guys try it out. If you don't like Taco Bell, then whatever. And that's it for this episode of Patch Notes. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to give some feedback on the show, go ahead and leave a comment and a like or a dislike. Also, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to be making content like this every single week. If you want to see more content, be sure to wait until the end screen that's going to come up in just a second to see what YouTube and we recommend for you guys. That's it for me. Thanks, guys. Bye.